The United States is about to run out of cash. Now, I don't know about you, but anytime that I feel financial insecurity or that I'm about to run out of cash, whether real or imagined, it's terrifying. And I like to think I do a pretty good job of staying on top of my finances, but every now and again, I'll receive a bank alert via a text message that I've received a low balance, or that a bank balance that I have has dropped below a certain threshold. And normally that just means I move some money around because I've spent in the wrong account. But if I knew there was no other account to draw into, I would be terrified. And that's exactly what's happening within the United States government right now. Now, it's been a while since the term debt ceiling has been in vogue, or people have been talking about it a lot. But the debt ceiling was something that was prevalently talked about back in 2011. And the impact of a default would be catastrophic across the board. What I found very interesting when I checked the headline news and I clicked to learn a little bit more about this particular subject, I found it fascinating that the meat and potatoes of this entire thing was hidden in a link. Well, I took the liberty of printing the letter that Janet Yellen, our Treasury Secretary, wrote to Congress, and I'm going to read it to you verbatim because it is terrifying. And the impact that this will have on the economy, on jobs, on hospitals, on the housing market will be profound. And I'm sure this probably is not the most sexy subject that I could talk about, but this is the most important subject that we must talk about, and we've got to talk about it and understand it right now. Now, I will pop this letter in so that you can read along with me. And if you'd like me to send you a copy, I'm happy to do that. Just leave your email down below in the comments and I'll send a copy of it to you. And it's interesting that this letter is coming out on Friday the 13th, which is today. But it goes on to say, now this is on Department of the Treasury letterhead. This is from the Secretary of the Treasury, Janet Yellen. And it's addressed to Kevin McCarthy, who is the Speaker of the United States House of Representatives. And what's critical to understand is that the solutions for these problems is going to require cooperation. It's going to require teamwork, which is not too dissimilar to the situation that I just had yesterday while representing a buyer who wants to buy a home. They want to submit a contract. They want to see that home. And yet, the listing agent, who is based out of Miami and is now located in California, is not allowing us to see that home. And he doesn't want to cooperate with me to get in to see the home. And if you stick around to the end, I'll share with you exactly what happened and how I was able to overcome that so that my clients can get what they want. But I definitely don't want to put the cart before the horse. So let's get into this letter right now. Dear Mr. Speaker, Public Law 117-73 increased the statutory debt limit to approximately $31.381 trillion on December 16, 2021. As you know, the debt limit is the total amount of money that the United States government is authorized to borrow to meet its existing legal obligations, including Social Security and Medicare benefits, military salaries, interest on the national debt, tax refunds, and other payments. That's serious business. I'm writing to inform you that beginning on Thursday, January 19th, the outstanding debt of the United States is projected to reach the statutory limit. Once the limit is reached, Treasury will need to start taking certain extraordinary measures to prevent the United States from defaulting on its obligations. And to put that into practical application in terms that we understand here in the housing market, if a homeowner or a borrower defaults on their mortgage obligation, then the home gets foreclosed on. No bueno. And the bank is not going to be particularly forgiving. But let's go on to the next paragraph. The two extraordinary measures Treasury anticipates implementing this month are: 1, redeeming existing and suspending new investments of the Civil Service Retirement and Disability Fund and the Postal Service Retiree Health Benefits Fund, and 2, suspending reinvestment of the Government Securities Investment Fund of the Federal Employees Retirement System Thrift Savings Plan. Sounds to me like a lot of pension funds and a lot of savings plans are at risk, which is no bueno. Congress has expressly provided Treasury with authority to take these actions, and prior Treasury secretaries have used these measures, which will reduce the amount of outstanding debt subject to the limit and temporarily provide additional capacity for Treasury to continue financing the operations of the federal government. No bueno. After the debt limit impasse has ended, the CSRDF, which is the Civil Service Retirement and Disability Fund, Postal Fund, and G Fund, which is the Government Securities Investment Fund, will be made whole. Now, I just noticed out the window, it went from blue skies to rainy, stormy skies. And if that's not foreshadowing, I don't know what is. And I want to go ahead and thank the National Weather Service because obviously I paid them to make that happen. So let's continue. Presidents and Treasury secretaries of both parties have made clear that the government must not default on any obligation of the United States. And as noted, Treasury secretaries in every administration over recent decades have used these extraordinary measures when necessary. Yet the use of extraordinary measures enables the government to meet its obligations for only a limited amount of time. It is therefore critical that Congress act in a timely manner to increase or suspend the debt limit. Failure to meet the government's obligations would cause irreparable harm. And I'm going to say that again because it's that serious. Irreparable harm to the U.S. economy, the livelihood of all Americans, and global financial stability. And now it's really starting to get stormy out. So once again, thank you to the Weather Service. Indeed, in the past, even threats in the U.S. government might fail to meet its obligations have caused real harms, including the only credit rating downgrade in the history of our nation in 2011. And I absolutely remember the impact that had on our financial markets back in 2011, because back then I was still a stockbroker. And now it's really storming out, so let's get to the good stuff, or should I say bad stuff. Increasing or suspending the debt limit does not authorize new spending commitments or cost taxpayers money. It simply allows the government to finance existing legal obligations that Congresses and presidents of both parties have made in the past. And I'll say that differently. It seems like in the past, the government's mouth has written out checks that their ass can't cash. But I continue. The period of time that extraordinary measures may last is subject to considerable uncertainty due to a variety of factors, including the challenges of forecasting the payments and receipts of the U.S. government months into the future. Now, I got news for you. If you were looking to buy a home and the lender couldn't verify these certain things, you would not get a loan, and you wouldn't be buying a house because you're not credit worthy. But this is the government, so those rules don't apply. While Treasury is not currently able to provide an estimate of how long extraordinary measures will enable us to continue to pay the government's obligations, it is unlikely that cash and extraordinary measures will be exhausted before early June. Said differently, come June, there's no more money because they defaulted and they're broke. Consistent with past practice, I will of course continue to keep Congress informed as we approach the exhaustion of our resources. I respectfully urge Congress to act promptly to protect the full faith and credit of the United States. Sincerely, Janet L. Yellen. Now, a while back, I did a video talking about the liquidity crisis that will destroy the housing market, and I'm going to pop that into the end of this video so you can check it out. And many folks have asked me what I was telling clients back when I was a stockbroker during the financial crisis. And what I said then is the same thing I'm going to say now, which is these extraordinary measures that we must take in order to not default are not good. But similarly, the alternative is also not good. But I also know that if the Republicans and the Democrats cannot work together to solve this problem, it's going to be much worse. Cooperation is key. And without cooperation, this is just a disaster. Which brings me back to the story that I started telling at the beginning of this letter, which is that I'm working with clients right now who think they've found their dream home. They tried to buy 2 homes in this particular neighborhood during the frenzy of the past market, and they got outbid twice. And it wasn't based on the actual price, because in one of those instances, they had the highest price. They were the highest bidder. But the other buyer waived all contingencies. They waived their inspection period. And these were out-of-state buyers who were buying remotely. They hadn't even laid eyes on the property in person. They needed to have an inspection period. And we're not talking about a 10-day inspection period. They just needed a 1-day inspection period to get the property inspected and know what they were buying. But the other prospective buyer was willing to waive that completely and have no inspection. And because of that, they won the bid. They got their dream home. And my client settled for something really nice, but not their dream home. What my buyers didn't know then, and they certainly know now, is that they actually dodged a bullet. Because without that inspection period, they were at significant risk of buying something that had massive inspection issues. Or I should say that differently, that could have had massive conditional issues. Because the community in question, it was built during the Chinese drywall epidemic that impacted all types of new construction. And almost every home in that community had to be thoroughly gutted and remediated. There were lawsuits galore, and there was a lot of suffering due to that Chinese drywall. Now, full disclosure, I doubt the property that they bid on had a Chinese drywall problem, but I don't know what I don't know. And only an inspection would reveal that. But that was then and this is now. And they happened to find a home that checks all the boxes for everything they want. And so they were super fired up to go see it. I was super fired up to go show it to them. Unfortunately, the listing agent did not share my enthusiasm and was incredibly reluctant to let us go lay eyes on the property. And I eventually figured out why. One is the fact that he's based out of Miami, and it's probably an hour-and-a-half commute for him to attend the showing, which I let him off the hook with and told him he does not need to be there. And if he was in Miami, which it turns out he isn't, he's actually in California, well, that would make it completely impossible for him to attend this showing. So I took that off the table and begged him to let us see the property because I've got his buyer. Which then led to him telling me that this home, which has been on the market with 2 or 3 different listing agents and has gone through price reduction after price reduction and has been sitting on the market since, I think, August, suddenly has multiple purchase contracts that they're in the process of negotiating. Now, I doubt sincerely that any of that's true, but let's just pretend and take him at his word that he's got multiple offers right now that they're negotiating. What I suggested to him is, well, if you've got multiple offers that you're negotiating, then another contract into that mix creates a dynamic where you would be able to negotiate the price higher. And given that I'm telling you I've got buyers who want to buy this home, let us go see the property so that you and your client can make more money. And full disclosure, please understand, I'm selling him to let us get in to see the property, which absolutely will not preclude me from writing an aggressive contract and negotiating price. But that's a different step in this equation, and we're never going to get to that step if I can't get in to see the property. But in spite of me aggressively selling him to allow us to potentially purchase his listing, he didn't confirm the showing. And so last night, on a last-ditch effort to get my clients in there, I called him and he finally answered the phone. And that's when I learned all of this background information. And what he revealed was he was getting irritated with the sellers, and I let him vent. And then I suggested that it might be useful if he would allow me to model what I would say to them so that he could get what he wanted. And so after a brief role play of what to say to his clients in order for us to get them what they want, he did it, and the showing was confirmed. Now, I would love to tell you that there's a conclusion to this story and we got it under contract and negotiated a great deal and everybody walked away super happy, but that will have to come in the future in another video because the truth is that showing happens today at 5 p.m. So stay tuned because I will finish this story in an upcoming video when, if it's what my clients want, we will 100% get this property under contract and get them the best deal possible. Now, I hope you found this content valuable, and if you did, please subscribe to the channel. give it a thumbs up, share it with a friend, and check out my next video because I suspect you will love it a lot. And until next time, peace.